Hello, everyone. Happy Wednesday and welcome to our brand new showtime at 2 p.m.
Yes, thank you so much for joining us. So our shows are going to be looking a little bit different. Sometimes you just do things that give you some mental clarity. And I know for Taylor and I, we went away on a women's retreat this weekend with our church, and it provided a lot of the clarity we didn't know we were looking for.
Absolutely. So we're going to bring you a brand new vibe, a brand new energy every single week. Nikki's going to dig into this, but we want to bring you guys an overarching topic for the month. And we just feel so inspired. So join in for the ride today.
Yeah, so our topic for this month is looking up instead of looking in. And so what that means is so often we put so much emphasis on our own self-importance, on our own woes of the world, and turning inward and getting stuck in anxiety and depression and consuming thoughts that we just can't get out of our head, negative thoughts. And so it's, we are going to focus on how to scientifically train our brain to get out of those negative spirals, and also the ways we can look to God to also help get us out of those spirals. So for this week, we're really going to be digging into the book of Philippians and using that as our reference to help assist us in getting out of those negative spirals.
Absolutely, guys. So we have to start off with our Bible verse of the day. And that is going to be Philippians chapter 4, verses 8. Finally, brothers and sisters, whatever is true, whatever is noble, whatever is right, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, and whatever is admirable, if anything is excellent or praiseworthy, think about these things. That literally speaks to our theme of looking up versus looking in. And as Nikki said earlier, sometimes we do spiral out of control. We get stuck, and it's kind of like the story we tell ourselves, and it leads into something else, something else, something else. And before you know it, you're just whacked out of control. But when you think about this Bible verse and apply it to your life, it reminds you to make sure that you keep your thoughts pure and keep your thoughts focused on the Word of God.
Yeah, and so in an everyday sense, we're going to really take our time today and go into detail, share stories about clients, and some self-disclosure, because I think this is really important this month, and I don't want to rush through it. And so, when you say that and keeping our thoughts on what's righteous, what's pure, what's lovely, right? The things we fixate on is what we become.
That's powerful.
We know this. The things that our mind fixates on is what we become. And so let's take it to this place first. Let's say you're someone who struggles with anger, and it's something you've really been focusing on. Even if you focus on not being angry, like you're trying to focus on being a positive person, all your energy is like, I don't want to be angry. I don't want to, I want to be able to bite my tongue. I don't want to unleash on this person. The problem is when you're still constantly focusing on anger, the result is still actions that are related to anger, even though that's the opposite of your intention. Does that make sense?
That makes perfect sense, Nikki. Just fixating on anger and trying, your mind is overwhelmed with those thoughts. Like you said, how can I bite my tongue today? How can I make sure that my anger doesn't blow up and create some rifts in important relationships in my life or at work or whatever it may be? But sometimes I feel like when you constantly have that in your head, like focusing on that anger, before you know it, it overcomes you. It takes over your life, and you just are just angry. By fixating on it so much, it takes over your every being.
Yeah, and so even when you have a noble intent of not being an angry person, again, when you're fixating on that fear of becoming angry, chances are you're going to end up right in the place that you were trying so hard to avoid. So when we say what we fixate on is what we become, we know that we need to focus on things that are admirable, on the positive, on automatically being able to reframe events. But there are so many things that get in the way of being able to bring that to the light. And I love that you had mentioned this, Taylor. I'm going to steal your phrase. She's like, there's so many things that get in our way and so many distractions. And she's like, let's call these distractions blinding lights, because it doesn't allow us to see the light fully. So what are some blinding lights? And let's talk about that. And let's talk about how it applies to our everyday life.
So blinding lights are just things that distract us, things that take us away from the admirable, from the lovely, from whatever is right. It clouds our judgment, and it may be one of those things that not helps, makes us spiral out of control. So such blinding lights are noise.
So what does noise mean for you?
Noise for me is when I think about just everything going on in my life, like the busyness happening around me, the negativity coming in, the stuff that pulls me away from what I'm supposed to be focusing on. So if I am trying to focus on, the word of God and thinking like positive thoughts and what is right, noise for me might be a distraction from the enemy, sending me something that's like, hey, pull over here, pay attention to this. It's wrong, but it's good. That's what noise is for me. What about you?
Yeah, so I think noise for me is probably, it shows up most in future-oriented thinking. What sessions do I have? How can I help this person? Taylor, do we respond to this email? What's my schedule like for next week, right? Just like you said, not being able to sit in silence. But, the whole book of Philippians, Paul was detained. He was incarcerated, right? He had to sit in silence in prison, and that's where he was able to write all of these great letters.
Right.
And that's what gave him joy. And so, yeah, noise is anything that distracts you from being able to sit in silence and to evaluate and to think clearly.
Right. I'm so glad that you brought up Paul. Now that we're in the book of Philippians, whew, there's my noise. Something's distracting me in my head, right? But just think about Paul, like you just shared. He was in jail for a majority of his life, and he's able to write this specific verse talking about focus on whatever is pure, whatever is admirable, whatever is right. Meanwhile, he's being beaten by guards. He's being put down. People are speaking negativity to him, but he's able to focus on these things. He's not allowing himself to spiral out of control, because I can only imagine the noise that's surrounding him as he's in jail and just the people around him and what he has to endure every single day. But he's choosing to focus on what's right and what's positive.
Yeah, and so a lot of times, we're distracted by noise because we have poor habits. We wake up and we check our phones right away, let's say, and then you start, I was thinking about you in the background, and then you start the scrolling and you get stuck in that. For me, it's that I come downstairs right away and I go to make my coffee, but then I see like everything lying around. I'm like, oh, quick tidy up. And it can be, my house is always tidy, and it can be the tiniest thing. And then I start this cleaning thing. And before I know it, I have to start work, and I have sessions, and I didn't sit in silence. So noise can come from comparing yourself on social media or with people you may know that have more than what you have. Noise can be physical noise. Like, when's the last time you just looked around and had a quiet home and was able to sit and think in your thoughts?
I'm so glad that you brought up comparison, because I'm going to do some self-disclosure. And actually, that's something that we're going to be doing moving forward. I know we have done little bits of self-disclosure in our past shows, but we really want to connect with you guys and share our own experiences and our own struggles while we're on this journey. But again, you brought up comparison, and that's something that I have always struggled with. I think I mentioned when we talked about bad habits that my first thing to do when I wake up in the morning is to pick this thing up. And I have so many notifications on my phone. I'm like, ooh, let's check this out. Let's scroll through Instagram. And I'm seeing people that are traveling. I'm seeing people that are living in beautiful homes. I'm seeing people who just got married and like having this extravagant wedding. I'm seeing all these things, and some other business owners that are doing well. And I'm seeing all these things and comparing myself to that. That's noise.
That's noise.
It's noise.
Thoughts in your brain that take away from what you're trying to achieve and your mission and your purpose.
And I just had to sit in my own silence. And of course, we sit together in silence as well, and just check that, like, get rid of it. That's the enemy trying to tell you you're not good enough. That's the enemy trying to tell you to look at this person. You should want to be this. That's where envy comes from, right? That's where jealousy comes from. I had to nip that in the bud, because, my life as it is going right now is beautiful, and I should not want to compare myself to other people or wish that I had somebody else's lot, because that's not biblical, if we're going to be honest with that. You shouldn't compare yourself. You should be proud and loving and admire what God has given you in your own life.
Yeah, and one of my examples of noise, which ties into one of our second distractions, so I'm going to do that as a transition. Our second distraction is self-importance.
Ooh, that's a big one.
And so transitioning from noise to self-importance, because my example ties into both, I think, my noise is that I create noise because I like to stay busy.
And I create noise because I hate silence. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, yes, I like to stay busy. And I stay busy because I feel like whatever I produce every day, the more productive I can be, the more I can do for others, not in a charitable way, but like literally things I can check off my list. Well, I cleaned the house, I took the dog for a walk, I did this, I did that, I had sessions, is how I prove my worth to people.
Right.
It's how I've tried to prove my worth to you, to my significant other. It's so weird saying significant other because it's her brother. So like, I just don't know how to like say this.
Guys, we have so much intertwined: business partners, best friends. Hopefully she can be my sister-in-law, but it works for us, right? It works for us.
It does work for us. So, yeah, like the things I can get done every day is how like I can be a good business partner to Taylor, or the things I can get done around the house before Sean gets home is how I can be a good girlfriend, right? And I know that that is not my worth, but I create noise and I put so much importance on myself and focus on me that it doesn't allow me to really serve in my purpose and my mission at times. And it's very distracting because I do get hyper focused on that when neither one of you care about any of those things.
Right.
And I know this.
I think so many people do struggle with self-importance, because when you can make yourself or build yourself up and feel that you are valued or feel that you are wanted and appreciated, you keep on doing those things. It's kind of like what we talked about last week with habits. You just kind of formed a bad habit of making yourself the center of the universe and placing so much importance on that. And like before you know it, there's so much noise going on around that. You're going to miss what's in front of you. You might miss out on a sign that God has sent you because you just feel like, oh, we're going to make this all about me. I want to share with my significant others. I want to share with my friends how important I am. Look at me.
And I think too, we sometimes do that with like a super noble intent, right? Like, well, I want to grow and I want to be better, which is fine. Like we have to grow and be better, right? That's a good thing. But I think we get so focused on looking inward and trying to grow and be better that we forget to give service to others. And we forget the reason why we're growing and better is to live a better life for ourselves and to give back. And so when we forget the reason we're growing, all of a sudden, again, all that focus is turned inward, and we kind of lose sight of our mission and purpose, whatever that may be for you. And it really creates unhappiness, which is the opposite of what we set out to do to begin with.
100%. More self-disclosure for me. And listen, you got to start self-disclosing too a little bit here.
Like I just did.
I feel like, I feel like I'm on self-disclosure number 3 here. So, but anyway.
Who's keeping track though?
Right. Oh, maybe that's my noise, right? When it comes to self-importance, I want to apply that to my life. Go figure, self-importance, right? But with self-pity, because that can kind of be a blinding light for you as well. That can kind of be a noise in your background. And I know I've disclosed over the last couple of shows some health anxiety stuff that I've been going through, some things that my husband's been going through, and just fixating on that. Like it consumed me, right? Like you said, what you fixate on is what you become. But just when I was so focused on all these different symptoms that I was having, as well as him, right? But when you just fixate on, I was starting to spiral out of control. And my anxiety just took off. Right? Nikki's like, Taylor, you forgot to send this email, or Taylor, you forgot to X, Y, and Z. And that's how she knows. That's why God love her. She keeps me in check. When I start forgetting things, that's when she knows anxiety is taking over. But because I was so focused on myself and poor me, Nikki, I have this symptom, Nikki, I have that symptom, instead of trusting God and focusing my thoughts on what is true and what is admirable, I spiraled out of control.
You really did. You were taken to a place this year that I've never seen you.
And that's what happens when you fixate on things that are not true.
Yeah. And so the reason a lot of us fixate on things because we want to make our lives better and we want to make it better for our families and the people we care about. And this is going to sound horrible and I don't mean it to, but we know that, if we are not good enough to take care of ourselves and we're spiraling, we're going to pull other people down with us, which is what happened with you.
Absolutely.
Because you kind of pulled me in that. And as much as I tried to fight it, we're friends and business partners and family. So like I was stuck in that midst too. And by no means is that a bad thing. Like I wanted to be there to support you, but we both took a hit from that.
I pulled my mom into it because my mom's a doctor and I'm like, Mom, poor me, pity me, help. But like I didn't really realize, I was so focused on my own self and that self-importance as that blinding light. I didn't really realize how much it was impacting her, how much it was impacting my mom, how much it was impacting Tommy, just the people around me, and even my friend group was like, Taylor, you're normally this cup half full person, happy-go-lucky. What happened?
And for those who don't know, because you talked about health anxiety, but that's a kind of a new term with the DSM. So Health anxiety kind of replaced the word
hypochondriac.
Okay, I didn't. I was like, do I?
I like the term health anxiety because it seems
more
positive. It seems more suave, more debonair. Instead of saying, I'm a hypochondriac. No, I suffer from health anxiety.
So when Taylor was saying like she drug us into this, it's not because she necessarily was dying. You did feel things. For you, it was very, very real.
Right.
For all of us looking on the outside, we kind of knew it. Not that it wasn't real, because it was real, but that
it was like imagined.
Yeah, the intensity of it was kind of imagined, and you got so stressed, you manifested stress symptoms.
Yes.
So, for example, she thought she was having a heart attack and stroke, and it was strokes, and it was just a panic attack. So, because she got herself so worked up. So when we are talking about how she drugged us into that, we by no means are not sympathetic to. There were slightly imagined health issues at times, which is why we're like, it's a little bit more difficult for us to help you with.
But that's why, guys, I hope I'm speaking to somebody today, that somebody that resonates with my story or her story. That's why you got to challenge yourself all the time on what is true.
Yeah.
I was so focused on whatever was happening with me that was what's the word? Imaginable. No.
Nope.
Imaginative. There we go, imaginative. See, guys, my mind is moving 1,000,000 miles per second. But I was so focused on those imaginative symptoms that I created that I spiraled out of control so fast. It was like a domino effect.
It happened within a week or two.
It happened so quick. And, I pulled everyone down. So I don't know if anybody else is resonating with this. Please share in the comments. We'd like to read that or shout you out, whatever you need. But think about when you get in these out of control spirals, the people that you affect around you. I don't necessarily think that when you get into these modes or get into these spirals, you're not thinking about other people. Maybe some of you are, but mostly when we're experiencing something that's traumatic for us or something that's not normal for us, we think about ourselves and that importance. Just think about the ripple effect that happens and how you're attacking other people around you with that.
Yeah, and we bring this up not because it's not okay. Like, it's not because you're a burden to someone else.
Right.
That's by no means what we're saying. It's because, again, kind of that law of attraction, like that energy you put out is what will continually happen. So we have to have moments where we have anxiety or we have a pity party or we're focused on us. That's okay.
Right. What
we're talking about is like that long-term, month after month, because when you stay really focused on something, it will continually attract what you're trying to push away. Like, you were so focused on your health and you wanted so bad to be healthy that you stayed stuck in an unhealthy state.
Right.
So that's why we're talking about like kind of that ripple effect too. It's that energy you put out.
And again, what you fixate on, you become.
Exactly.
Right. So just to kind of finish with that little narrative there, I decided to fixate on what is true. And what is true is that after many doctor visits and hypochondria, I'm fine. So thank the Lord, thank God I am fine, because the stuff I imagine, guys, you guys are gonna look at me and be like, wow, she's nuts. I'm never watching this show again. But I decided to focus on what was true. I'm healthy, right? So if I wanna turn that nervous energy into positive energy, what can I do to focus on my health now? And I made the decision, within the last 2 weeks, I'm gonna eat healthy. I'm gonna get in the gym. I'm gonna wake up earlier. And I've been waking up at 6:30 every morning, going to the gym. It even surprised her because I text her at like 6:30, good morning, Nikki. And she's like, wow, you're up early. I'm like, brand new Taylor. I just feel this amazing ball of energy from deciding to focus on what is true and not allowing myself to spiral out of control. And I started doing that. And I think one of the new things for me too is just meditating in the morning and listening to prayer podcasts. That has really changed my life significantly over the last few weeks.
Yeah. This is a distraction I have to share because it's funny. When you had said about like texting me good morning, we always text each other good morning every morning. And then I realized like, wow, we are super codependent on each other in like probably an unhealthy way. Like, it works for now, but what happens if like something happens to one of us?
It's funny. Oh my gosh, guys, at the retreat that we went to this weekend, this one woman was sitting across from us and she goes, you guys are kind of like a married couple. I was like, yeah. We definitely are. But it just goes to show, like, I love having her as somebody that can check me and say, Taylor, you're spiraling out of control. You need to retrain your thoughts and focus back on what is true and get back on track.
So speaking of checking yourself, that pulls into the next distraction so perfectly. This was not planned, by the way, so it's just tying in nicely. You have to be able to check yourself, and you have to have people in life that can check you. right? Because one of the other distractions that keep us from the light, that keep us from living in our purpose, is complacency. Oh, sorry, we have a question. Would you consider worrying noise? People often worry about things we cannot control, like the election and pandemic. So before I go into complacency, I have a great story for that.
Let's do it.
So, thank you, the Hustle Agency. So, yes, I was super caught up on the election results. As soon as I woke up, 6:45 this morning, I checked, responded to her good morning text. So without sharing any political beliefs, my belief system, as far as my core values, is, whatever you may think about politics, I will always side with whatever side is going with compassion, humanity, love for everyone, right? Like living in my truest, most humble, pure form. And so there's not a lot of that in the world right now. And I was almost getting ready to get worried about it. And I have to take my dog for a walk every morning because I have a 4-month-old German Shepherd puppy. And so if I don't walk her, she's a nightmare. If I walk her, she's an angel. So nice and cold, bright and early this morning, zip up my jacket, I go for a walk. And the sun was shining behind me, but the moon was still out. And I know this is a long story, but it's so perfect to this worry. I looked up at the moon and I thought about, what does the earth look like from the moon's perspective, right? And that these elections don't matter, borders don't matter. And that whether the world is awesome or whether we are living in hell on earth, it doesn't matter, because we are just part of a system. We are little pawns in a system. We are so small. And that's kind of what makes me feel better in not worrying and not being distracted by things I cannot control. I will live my best life, serve with as much purity as I can. And that what I can't control, I can't control. And that's why I don't worry about it, because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. Like, my life is not that significant that it matters at the end of the day to that degree of global scale.
Right. And I kind of want to, answer that question as well. Is worry noise? And I would say absolutely 100% worry, concern, anxiety, fear, all those things are noise. And here's why. I want to reference Philippians again. And this is going to be chapter 4, verses 6 through 7. And that is, be careful for nothing, or don't let anxiety take over your life. But in everything, by prayer and supplication with thanksgiving, let your requests be made known to God. And the peace of God, which passeth all understanding, shall keep your hearts and your minds through Jesus Christ. To me, that means you shouldn't worry about anything, because God is in control. He knows what your story is. He writes your story. He knew who you were before you were even born. So just be happy, be in the moment, do what you need to do to carry out your mission. Don't let worry take over your life. Feelings like worry, anxiety, and guilt are useless, because they're future oriented. The what ifs. Oh my gosh, what if this happens? What if this? It's a what if, right?
And so on our show, as you guys know, if you don't know already, we like to tie in science and religion, because, I know I grew up in a way that those things had to be separate. You had to choose science or you had to choose religion. And the truth is that those things are very much one and the same, just a slightly different lens. The message is the same. And so with what you just said, I want to tie in that part. So we think executively with our frontal lobe. That's where our higher order thinking comes from. And so when we are calm, when we are peaceful, we can think and execute decisions more clearly. When we have noise and distractions, it increases our cortisol level, which is our stress hormone, which literally affects how our frontal lobe works, our frontal cortex works, and we can't make decisions as well. So whether it's, whether it's that you need to turn to the Bible, whatever the case may be in your life, we know that what Paul says in this verse in Philippians, and what literally how our brains function physically, are all in the same. Right. And that we need to calm that noise in order to make the best decisions. Right. Because if we're worrying about something, I'm guessing there's a problem. And so in order to find a solution, that would be the best way to go about using our brains to do that.
Absolutely. And I also wanted to share about, along the scientific lines, I don't use the scientific facts like Miss Lady over here, but I did want to share that when we experience something that's a threat to us, or when we experience anxiety, our fight, flight, and freeze responses kind of jump into play. But I want to let you guys know that the body and the cortisol levels and everything that happens to you can't discern whether you're about to get attacked by a bear or whether you're letting stress and anxiety over politics or what's happening in your life or health anxiety, it can't discern between the threat level with that.
Or what's real or imagined. Everything is the same.
Correct. So you have to be careful for allowing yourself to go down that spiral, allowing worry and concern to take over. Challenge yourself, get back to whatever is pure, get back to whatever is right and whatever is admirable and noble. You can't allow yourself to spiral out of control because your body is going to react to stress in ways that you probably never even thought were possible.
You know, we went off on that tangent and you circled right back into the transition again so amazingly.
Yay!
So back to complacency, because it circled right back. So one of the distractions is complacency. And complacency is not living with intentionality. And so with that, right, we get so stuck in our habits and our thought patterns. We are not going to get out of that, and life will not be better unless we intentionally start sitting in silence. We intentionally stop listening to the noise. Like, we are intentional in our thoughts, our feelings, and our actions. And so complacency itself, by not doing anything, you're still choosing an action. You're choosing the action of not doing, and you will stay stuck in a negative spiral. And so in order for us to get rid of that fight, flight, or freeze, in order for us to understand what is real, that we need to have that reaction versus what's not, and getting out of those stress levels, this takes an intentional effort.
Absolutely.
Whether you're sitting in silence reading scripture, whether you're listening to us, whether you get a coach or a therapist, this is not a one-time, I think about it once a day thing. I close my Bible and I'm done. Or, I talk to my therapist for an hour and I'm out. Like, this is something you actively have to try to change in your brain.
I think complacency is definitely a huge stop sign, a huge blinding light for so many people. And it ties in self-importance as well, because how do I want to word this? Complacency allows you to stay stuck. Maybe it allows you to wallow in that self-pity. It ties in all these blinding lights, right?
It allows you not to accomplish your goals.
It allows you to not accomplish your goals. And like, when I think about my experiences and what I've been going through, self-disclosure number 5, because who's keeping track?
I hope you're counting wrong. I hope they call you out on it somehow. That's amazing.
Let's go back and see who self-disclosed more. But complacency for me, I got stuck in that, especially with this health anxiety stuff I was going through. And I allowed myself to sleep in until 9, 10 o'clock. I had things to do, running a business, clients, I had things to do and people that counted on me to make things happen. But I got complacent with the self-importance, the self-pity, the wallowing, poor me, that I just stayed in my bed, sat on my couch, watched Netflix. I was not living in my passion or my mission for what God has given to me. And that was the enemy attacking me and saying, you're fine, be complacent, rest, you really need it, you've really been stressed out. But I got stuck. I really got stuck in that moment. And I just wonder how many of you struggle with complacency. And that might look like just not that you've given up on your goals. Maybe something went wrong and you decided, well, that's not the path I want to go on. I don't know where to go next, so I'm just going to stay right here. Maybe you've given up on going to the gym because you didn't see results quick enough. So you're complacent in that life that's not healthy, or complacency in relationships that do not serve you.
That's a big one we coach on a lot.
Yes. So complacency, not only is it a blinding light, it's scary.
Yeah, I mean, I think complacency is one of our biggest threats to our joy, to living in joyfulness. I'm going to go on the last thing you said, because we've been coaching to that a lot with relationships. I hear, especially more so with women, but even with some men too, well, he hasn't done anything wrong. He hasn't done anything big, so it's okay. Like, why would I leave? What? What? Anything we choose to do in life has to serve us wholly and fully and bring us joy. Whether it's a relationship, whether it's your career, but I mean, anything. And so the minute it stops serving you in happiness and joy, I'm not saying this because we got into a fight and you're angry at your partner and now you're leaving, but anything that's not consistently overarchingly serving us, don't be a part of it. And so often we wait for something bad to happen. Well, I'm going to wait till I get fired and then I'll start my business. I'm going to wait until he cheats and then we'll break up. Jokes. Right. As in your word, jokes. We have to think about, how what we are doing, our actions are serving us, the people that are around us. Because if not, we're complacent. And then and this is going to sound so morbid, but really, you have such a short period of time on this earth. And what happens when you're complacent is you live, you keep waiting for the next thing or for something to happen. You allow the world to control you instead of you taking control. Then you die, and then your deathbed, which is what we hear over and over when we used to work with seniors, is that you live in so much regret. And I wish I would have done this differently. Complacency is a scary, scary thing. I
100% agree with that. Piggybacking off what you said, some people feel like, oh, I'll wait till the right moment for things to take off or for me to invest in whatever I need to invest in to move forward. But when is the right time? Sometimes, don't get me wrong, sometimes you do need to pray on it. You do need to ask God what's the right movement for you. But be careful that the enemy doesn't stick you in complacency and stick you in that mindset of, I'm just going to wait and wait and wait and waste away. I think that's something that you guys may need to sit down and really, really think hard and long about your life. What is something that you are just sitting on? What is a relationship that's not serving you anymore? Are you not happy at work anymore? Do you need a new career? Something to revive you, something to, put you on the path towards your mission and your heart's desire. Complacency, like she said, like I said, is a real threat to joy. And it can definitely take over your life. And before you know it, years have passed on and you still haven't started your family, or you still haven't jumped out and created your business. You still are at that same job that literally drains the life out of you.
Yeah. And complacency can start with, okay, you're not ready to make this life-changing move. Okay, we get that. So even for us going on this retreat this weekend, especially with COVID, we've been very, housebound. I say we as if we live in the same house. We don't. We have our own lives, kind of separate from each other, not really. But we have been housebound, and we haven't been traveling, and we haven't been connecting quite the way we used to. Also, women's retreats were not necessarily something we would do frequently anyway. We would have girls' weekends with our friends, but not a church-affiliated women's retreat, just because they don't offer them that often. And so I think even breaking out of your routine, being around people you might not normally, or doing things out of the ordinary, is key to getting started and having that rejuvenation and having that new lens. Because again, if you told me have a girls' weekend, but we still do that all the time. If we're trying to do something different, that's our go-to different.
Right.
This was very, very different and out of our ordinary. And it was, we didn't know we needed. We didn't know we needed it, and we've been craving for that.
Right. And I'm so glad that you're bringing up so many points in my mind that I wanted to share with you guys. And Nikki and I spend so much time helping other people realize their purpose in life, or sparking that fire in them, or getting their thoughts moving from negative to positive, that I didn't really realize we haven't really focused on ourselves in that way. And again, she's had her own stuff, I've had my own stuff, but we tend to influence each other. So if she's negative, I'm going to be pulled into negative. If she's positive, I'm going to be pulled into positive, and vice versa. But that retreat that we went to this weekend really shifted our mindset on a lot of things, and we realized, wow, we need to jump back into this and start living this life that we share with all of you guys, and refocusing and getting rid of that noise, right? Getting rid of that self-pity, that complacency. And I think it's really transformed us. Now, it's only been 4 days since the retreat, but still that impact, our decision to cancel out the noise, cancel out the enemy, that created so much momentum for us that is powerful. I'm kind of have chills right now just realizing how powerful that was. And I hope that somebody who's watching this show right now kind of feels our energy coming off to you guys, and you guys can have that shift and that transformation as well.
Yeah, I mean, you said it so great when you, yes. No, just yes. I have nothing to add to that.
Are we sitting in silence?
I'm sitting in silence.
Did I just sit in silence?
Yeah, one of Taylor's, I would say, afflictions of the heart, which we'll touch on in a few weeks, is silence. She hates it. She does not do well in it. And so she's learning to grow in that. I'm super proud of you.
Yeah, silence has always been hard for me. For friends and family who are watching this show right now, they know Taylor likes to talk, and Taylor likes to be vibracious and all this stuff, so that when we're having sessions with clients, and one of the biggest powerful shifts or transformation is to uncover something or shine a light on something and let the client sit in silence so they can reflect. But if the silence is longer than 1.25 seconds, I get uncomfortable with that. And I jump in to point process something, and Nikki's like, Taylor, sit in silence. Like, it's okay.
Yeah, and so, yes. So, you know, if any of these things are afflicting you, I also would challenge you. So I think with the example you gave, like, we were able to preach all day long, and we're good at what we do. We see those results. And I know that sounds like really arrogant. I don't mean it. Just, we're good at what we do. God has given us this knowledge and this gift to really shine light on people. We were so focused on our clients, and because it was such a noble intent, we never looked at that as noise. Like, why do you look at that as noise? It's for we're doing good in the world. We're making the world a better place. But like you said, we still made that noise, and we didn't focus on ourselves. And I don't think we realized how far we had fallen from what our true alignment and purpose was. So even if you're doing good things in the world, even if you're really good at sharing wisdom with others, take that moment to take a hard look at yourself, and are you walking the walk? Or, you know?
That's just the true power of sitting in silence. And again, you know, we all have growing points and things that we could apply to our lives. It's going to take time. It's a journey, but silence is big. Guys, silence is good. That's what I'm trying to teach myself. Silence is powerful. Sit in silence with God if you can, right? Sit in silence. Some of you may have so much noise in your home right now. Kids, animals, a spouse that never stops talking. That's me.
He screams. He talks.
Yeah, he screams. He's really loud. But find some way, whether you wake up 10 minutes earlier than other people in your family, or stay up a little bit later after everybody goes to bed, and find that time to sit in silence. I think you're going to really bring some things to light that you need to shift. Some of those things, some of those negative beliefs or feelings that you have about yourself, you can start to shift once you finally call it to the light.
Yeah, absolutely. And not let it blind you anymore, right? Whether it's that noise, that comparison, the self-importance, right? Everything that we talked about today. Know where it's showing up, because I guarantee it's showing up for all of you in some way. Some more than others, I get that. None of us are perfect, and all of that shows up. That's why we try to self-disclose today. Even for us, it shows up in our lives too. Like you said, bring light to it.
Absolutely. So guys, on one of our first shows, we really tied in the principles of cognitive behavioral therapy. And as Nikki shared, you know, there is a bridge between religion and psychology. So I wanted to share this with you guys here. And this is the cognitive behavioral therapy triangle. And that just shows that our thoughts are connected to our behaviors, are connected to our feelings, and vice versa. They all influence each other. Just want to share that with you guys so you can check that out. But think about the Bible verse again. Whatever is true, noble, right, pure, lovely, or admirable, excellent, and praiseworthy. Think about such things. It starts with your thoughts. It starts with your thoughts, guys. And if you are able to focus on those thoughts, just imagine the beautiful feelings that are going to come for that. You're going to experience happiness. You might start to experience true joy. You might be excited about things, emotions that maybe you haven't felt in a long time. And just, your behavior change is going to be crazy.
Absolutely. And so if you're looking for what book to turn to, I think when you're stuck in your own head and you have anxiety or depression, the book of Philippians is always like a nice, brief book to turn to help provide guidance. Next week, of course, we're going to continue with this theme of looking up instead of looking in. And we're going to talk to you about the 5 most common lies we tell ourselves. And also we're going to give you some of our coaching tricks that we give our clients to help start that behavior change.
Absolutely. So guys, again, remember our brand new time, 2 p.m. on Wednesdays. And as always, thank you for tuning in this week to, oh, I'm sorry. I thought I felt something. Thank you so much for tuning into our show, MINDTRIP, where we explore the connections between mindset and mental health. Please follow us if you're not already on Instagram. Our handle is BKLLC19. And our Facebook page is Bryant Katsaounis Life Coaching. All that information is going to be listed down below in the comments, because Miss Lady over here has a last name that you probably can't spell.
Yeah, that's true, or pronounce. Also, please go to our website at visiondrivencoaching.com. Sign up for our newsletters. Like we said, everything this month is around the theme of stopping, not looking inward, and looking outward, right, and looking up. So all of our newsletters, the things we post, everything will be around that theme. So check that out as well if you haven't already.
Thank you guys for tuning in for yet another week, and we'll see you next week.
Bye.
Bye.